PGA-DFS. I'm Alex White, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark Ferris. How are we doing today, Mark?
Doing good. I'm in a different location, so if it looks a little bit different, I didn't move or anything. So got moved into the smaller office today because my kids overtook the basement. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll have better luck here. You guys probably won't hear much from me tonight because I'm going to be writing down whatever Al says.
Hey, you know what? Let's just keep this hot streak rolling. Hopefully
right.
You can bring along our followers with me, and hopefully you can tag along too, Mark. That'd be awesome, right?
Hey, my best prediction last week was reverse psychology when I told everybody I hated Adam Scott so much, you better play him.
Yep, and he was my sneaky suspicion in my article. If nobody read it, if you did, he was my call of the week, I would say, taking that second place at 7,500 and put up a bunch of birdies along the way, birdieing his last 4 holes, I think, of the entire tournament.
So between the two of us, we got Adam Scott right in 2 different directions.
Yeah. So we're not always going to be on board with one another, but that's why we have 2 people on the show, right, Mark?
That's exactly right. We're not going to agree on everything.
All right. Well, this week we go to Phoenix, Arizona, and we're going to take on the Waste Management Open. So let's start with the course preview. We are starting with 7,200, a little over 7,200 yards. It's a par 71. We've been playing par 72s the past couple weeks. So that's going to give us 3 par 5s, 4 par 3s, and 11 par 4s. The par 4 17th is a drivable 332-yard par 4. So really you almost get an extra par 5 if you have a bomber that can actually drive the green. So there is water on that hole, though. So it's either a bogey, it's a birdie, and sometimes an eagle. I think 2001, there was actually a hole-in-one, and Robert Garrigus last year put one within like 2 inches of the hole. So hole-in-ones are an option. Don't bank on that, but they can happen.
Well, the good thing about that too, going for that hole, those guys are so good, they can drive it in that water, still get up and down for par.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. Woodland did it actually a couple times last year, I believe. He drove it in the water and ended up coming out with par. And he was the winner last season. So, yeah, I mean, it's not pure danger when you can drive a par 4. Okay, so the greens are going to be Bermuda. And the greens, once again, are littered with bunkers around them. So we're trying to find good ball strikers this week, good approach shots, good tee to green. And I found that stats that I'm actually looking for, which I normally don't, is putting this week. I feel like this week when I look at this leaderboard for the past couple seasons, there's a lot of, good putters, just consistent all around game. And we're not looking just for a bomber. We're not looking just for a good ball striker. You need a little bit of everything here. And this course ranks 32 out of 51 holes on the PGA Tour as far as difficulty. So there will be some high scores. So we're looking for DK points as well. Mark, let's start with this top range. So the field is not quite as strong as it was last week. We are starting at 10-1 with Xander Schauffele, who had a nice little showing, putted really well last week. Going up Hideki Matsuyama, Justin Thomas, and Jon Rahm. What do you think about that top range?
Yeah, there's so few guys in the top. Basically, when I did my breakdown for my tiers, I'm starting at $9,000 because you've only got 12 guys between 9,000 and 11,500. So you can play any of these guys. I mean, I say this every week, but those guys are there for a reason. Rarely they will miss a cut, but most of the time, you're gonna see these guys perform well. As far as the 4 guys you just discussed, I think from a standpoint of who likes this course, Jon Rahm and Hideki Matsuyama, 2 course horses. Matsuyama, other than a withdrawal last year, is a win-win in a second. So you don't get much better than that.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. So with Hideki, obviously we don't think he's in a withdrawal. Obviously, hope he doesn't. He doesn't have any injury risk. He had a great showing last week, so he's going to have pretty high ownership. Do you think that Justin Thomas is a good pivot off him? He doesn't have great course history, but he seems to be a great fit for this course.
Yeah, I think if you're going to talk to guys in the $10,000 range, my guess is Justin Thomas, frankly, is probably going to be the lowest owned of the 4. Of course, Xander Schauffele would be next because you've got the other 2 guys that are going to be highly owned. Sleeper, to me, at least in the 9,000 and up range, Webb Simpson. Webb's game in the last couple of years has turned around. a lot, and Webb's gotten consistent. So, for me, if you want somebody sneaky, I'd probably look at Webb.
I think that's a great call. I love Webb this week. And the fact, I mentioned putting as one of the stats, and he's a much better putter than he was, in 2017 when he took 14th. And he's a better putter than he was when he got second at this course. So, if he's going to get the ball on the greens and approach it like he's been doing his past couple tournaments, and he can get that flat stick rolling, it's going to be a real good week for Simpson. And I haven't heard him talked up really at all this week. For as good as he is, he might go overlooked. I think that's a good call, Mike.
Yeah, I believe so. And I mean, the other one that I think might sneak through and have pretty low ownership would be Cameron Smith, and he's playing really well. He's not winning. He's not flashy. He hasn't, been on the television coverage that much because he's not top 3, top 4, but he's consistently been top 15. So Cameron Smith's another guy.
Yeah, I think that's a great call with Smith. He's definitely going to be low owned. I mean, with all these bigger names in that $9,000 range, I think he goes completely overlooked. That seems like a big price for him, but it's not. He's been very consistent his past probably 6 tournaments. And I mean, he had, shown top 5 prowess all of 2017. He could pop on a course and you just say, oh, wow, Cam Smith's up there. And it wouldn't surprise you. So I think that's a great call as well. You'll get him, I would say, under 10% owned. Absolutely.
Oh, I agree. 100% I agree. Adam Hadwin's the same price, but of course, Adam Hadwin was in contention and almost won a couple weeks ago. So anybody watching golf on TV is going to remember that name. They're not going to remember Cameron Smith as much. So I think out of those two, I could see the ownership going towards Hadwin. If you want to get somebody at the low end of that $9,000 to $11,500 range, I see most of it going to Hadwin.
Really? Okay. I was picturing it more going to the Kuchar Mickelson range than I would the Hadwin. I figured Hadwin and Smith would both be low owned. But I mean, Hadwin's obviously had that second his last time out, but that's a course he's great at. I haven't heard much about Hadwin at all. That's a unique little take. So why do you think that people will kind of gear themselves towards Hadwin?
I don't think it's so much that they're going to gear themselves towards Hadwin because of his current form or his course history or any of that. It's just if you just started playing DFS or you've been playing DFS for a while or you follow golf in general, you have this recency bias. And because they've seen his name, I think he's going to be a little bit higher owned than Cameron Smith. Of course, Kuchar and Phil Mickelson, everybody knows. So, they're going to have ownership anyway. But surprisingly, out of those top 12, those 4 probably will be the 4 lowest owned, in my opinion. Maybe Webb Simpson sneaks in there too. But
okay. So do you think in that range, the highest ownership are your Fowlers, probably your Finau, and then Woodland at the top of that range? Do you think those will be your top 3 in the 9,000 range as far as ownership?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if Fowler, other than last week was an anomaly for him, I had hopes that he would play better than he has in the past, simply because it's his corporate sponsor. But he didn't play poorly. He just really didn't have anything to play for. Come Saturday, late Saturday and Sunday. So he just kind of, to me, in my opinion, shut it down. But his recent form up until that has been great. So that may just be an anomaly.
Okay. And then with Finau, he's missed the past 3 cuts. What do you think? I think he makes the cut, and I think he's a great course fit. And honestly, I mean, even looking at his cuts, it looks like he's missed it like right on the number the past 3 years. Like he's like the 1 shot away from making the cut. And Tony's such a good, he's really good at adjusting mid-round. I don't see him missing the cut again. He might be higher owned than he should be, but I think Finau has a chance, just like Woodland, to kind of pop out of nowhere and take a tournament down, and this could be the one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Tony Finau, he's going to win this year. I have no doubt. No doubt he's going to win. It's just a matter of when. And, this has potential. Like you said, with the drivable par 5 or par 4, the reachable par 5s, if he can keep it in play, and again, the rough here is not that bad. The biggest the obstacle you have, outside of the fairway here is if you drive it into the desert or into the mess, basically, for lack of a better word. Finau, I think Finau's got a really good chance of showing well this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then I do want to mention with the par fives, all of them are reachable into if you have a long drive and a long three wood. They're all within like the 550 to 600 yard range. So they can be reached in two. Last year, there was 30 Eagles total in 2018 on this course. So Eagles can happen. I mean, you saw Woodland come out of nowhere. He barely made the cut, and the guy rattled off 3 Eagles in his final 2 holes, and he puts up, 99 DraftKings points, even though he's, only top 8. He was like top 4 scoring. So it's kind of like when I called Phil Mickelson out the other week. He might get top 30, but he could be 15th in DraftKings scoring. So this is a good week for DK scoring again, especially when you have bombers that can take advantage of these par fives and that drivable par 4.
Yeah, and exactly, you bring up a good point, and it's a good segue into something I wanted to mention is my Alexander Noren call last week didn't turn out the way I thought, and he shot poorly on the first day. And I got some feedback from some people on Slack chat. And again, go to Slack chat. You can get instant feedback there. And basically the comment was, your Noren call is not turning out too well. And he wasn't mean about it or anything. It was just a comment. And, my response was, if you're going to play PGA-DFS, don't let Thursday get you overly excited, or don't let it get you overly miserable, because Friday can be a completely different day. And frankly, had the cut been where the cut normally is at Torrey Pines, Noren could have made the cut. He finished even, and missed the cut because the cut happened to be -3 this time. Same thing with Patrick Cantlay. He made a big comeback on Friday. It was just that their Thursday round was so bad. These guys can barely make the cut or just make the cut. And unless somebody's running away with it like Justin Rose was last week, they can come back.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, there was a bunch of golfers right on that cut line. You had your Abraham Answers, a bunch of high-owned golfers. But yeah, that cut line was -3. We thought it would be around even to 1 under. So, that's just stuff that we can't predict. These golfers are so good now. It's like you just have more and more people pushing these courses. If the weather's nice, I honestly think these courses, all of them are going to be easy unless there is a weather, wind or something, or rain, or there's no reason these guys can't go low every single week. They're just phenomenal. I mean, they're all so long and so accurate. Scores are not going to always, be exactly as we predict. But, that's just something that we kind of got to get over, and we move on. Noren, okay, he didn't work out that week. Doesn't mean he can't work out this week. Like I said, if you read my article about Adam Scott, I had him in 60% of my lineups at the Sony. He destroyed me. I played him in 50% of my lineups last week. He got second place. Please have a short-term memory with DFS. And like CT Pan, he shot 8 under Thursday. He ended up at like 4 under at the entire tournament. So don't take one round and just run with that. Good point, Mark. Absolutely.
100% true. It's 100% true.
All right, so let's keep moving on. Let's go to that 8,000 range. It's a pretty awesome range. It moves all the way up to Bubba Watson, who has some pretty good course history, down to Luke List. And anybody you're really targeting in this 8K range?
I guess if you want to go down to the 7,500 and up range,
sure.
One of the guys that I think is probably going to go possibly unnoticed unless the hype really brings him in is Martin Laird. He loves this course. He plays well on this course. And, of course, he plays on the European Tour. He's kind of like my call with Alex Noren last week. But nobody knows a whole lot about him. But, Party Marty is what they call him. And, if you go to the 16th hole in this course, where you get a bigger party in golf than the 16th hole with the Waste Management Phoenix Open. He could be a sleeper in that $7,500 to $9,000 range. The other ones that I like in that range, and again, I got to put my glasses on so I can see these. I do like Daniel Berger this week and Keegan Bradley. I think Daniel Berger will recover from where he was, what he did last week, although he didn't play poorly. But I think, as you said, the course didn't fit him that well. I think this course might fit him a little better. His tendency is when he gets off the fairway, sometimes he has trouble with his recovery shots. And supposedly the fairway or the rough here is either dormant or low. So it should help him a little bit there. Cameron Champ is another one that I, like you said, with Adam Scott. Cameron Champ burned me last week. I'm probably going to go back to him. Cameron Champ's a player. And I think, like you said, short-term memory, one bad week does not make the golfer's year.
Yep, and that call on Berger, I said he didn't play well on tight fairway courses, and he didn't. But when he played the North course, he shot 3 under and had a bogey-free round because there was wider fairways. This is a wider fairway course. I love Berger this week. I think it's an awesome way to get back on him. It's a good price, $8,200. And then even in that same 8K range, I think Champ is an awesome call because this can be like that bomb and gouge type course with the right golfer. And he's a pretty good putter too. I'm surprised at how well he puts the ball. It's just he needs to get on the green. His drives need to put him in a really good position. Once he gets on the green, he's good at putting. He's just not great around the green. So we just need to make sure that his approaches are good. But I think he can have a great week. I think that's an awesome call. And then I do like Shez Reavie again. He's consistent. And sometimes you don't just got to go for these crazy plays all the time. Go for somebody steady like Reavie. He shot, had a second place last year. And really, he did it all on the greens, and he's great through approaches. So, I mean, if he can approach the way that he did at the Sony and the week before that, then, if he gets that flat stick rolling, I think Shez is a great call at 87. I will be playing a little bit of Bubba at 89. I just think his ball striking and his ability to score is just phenomenal. He just needs to show up. Bubba kind of once in a while, he has these courses that he plays well on. He claims that he hates this course, and I don't really know why. Maybe he's just grumpy sometimes. Bubba's a mystery.
Bubba.
Yeah, he's a mystery, but he's a really good golfer. 89 for a guy that can just go out and eagle, get 2 eagles in a round. I love that price. So I think I'll be playing Bubba as well in that range. And anybody else? I might touch a little bit of Byung-Hun An at 86. I think he's a kind of a safe little cash game play. He plays well at this course. Anything from that 7,500 range? I'm liking Austin Cook at 79. I think he's a really good ball striker. He's put together some good tournaments here recently. Hasn't played since, I think,
November.
Yeah, November. It's been a while. So that'll definitely lower his ownership. But I think he's a very talented golfer. I was really hoping Aaron Wise would actually be in this tournament. Unfortunately, he's not. This is a great course fit for Wise. But him and Cook kind of have a similar game. Let's see. Anybody else? I might go back to JB Holmes. I had 5 or 6 through last week. He was the guy that missed the cut for me. He didn't play great. But JB Holmes is a solid golfer, and he doesn't miss, 3, 4, 5 cuts in a row. He's a good scorer. And even Ryan Palmer has had some good history here. Those are a few. And if you want to touch on Gooch, I mentioned last week if we were playing the young guys, well, Taylor Gooch had another great outing. Sam Burns had a good outing last week. And Gooch is lighting courses up. His ball striking is phenomenal. His approaches are really good. He's putting well, and he's fitting extremely well in my model. But it is hard to have 3 really good tournaments in a row. Not saying you can't do it, but for a young guy, that's pretty unrealistic. What do you think about like Gooch and like Ryan Palmer and stuff like that in that range?
I like Ryan Palmer. You've got some really good names in this group. I mean, like you said, you don't have to do the high risk people. You've got Zach Johnson in there. You've got Keegan Bradley in there. You've got JB Holmes, Emiliano Grillo. It's not Billy Horschel. It's not like you're taking a whole lot of risk with some of these guys. These guys are cut makers. Now, granted, yes, they're going to miss cuts, but that's just the nature of golf. But there's a lot of solid plays in that range. Now, I'm like you with Bubba. I want to play Bubba. I really want to play Bubba because he entertains me. Just Bubba's game, at least the last couple of tournaments he played, hasn't been there. But again, like you said, he says he hates his course, but he plays it well. So I don't understand the hate.
Maybe he hates it because of the drunk people littered the course. There's 200,000 people there, and I'm pretty sure 150,000 are wasted, if you will. And with that 16th grandstands, that seat 20,000 people. Bubba wears his emotions on his sleeve, so maybe that's why he hates it. But it is a good fit for him. And any course that Bubba plays well, that's why I kind of mentioned JB Holmes, because they're kind of that bomb and gouge type. If they can approach it, and those two just need the flat stick to get rolling. So yeah, I think Bubba just needs to get over it. And if he does, he'll have a good week.
And one other guy that's in that group that I just mentioned the name. It's not somebody I don't know if I'll play or not, but I know he played well last week in Europe. Is Tyrrell Hatton. His biggest problem is similar or somewhat like John Rahm's. If he can control his temper, he's outstanding. But he gets angry quickly, and when he gets angry, he turns one mistake into three. So if he can control his temper and handle the long trip or the long flight, which that would be a long flight all the way from Dubai or wherever they were, Qatar or wherever they were last week in the European Tour to Arizona, it's a long flight. So you may want to sprinkle him in here and there, but I wouldn't go all in on him. Yeah,
I like Hatton. He's a good putter, and like I said, this course. But if he does have an issue with his anger, and he's never played a course like this stop is not a great place for angry golfers, because you will have hecklers. And maybe Bubba hates it. There was a chant last year on hole 16 when he put it in the bunker, and it was Bubba has a mangina. That was the chant that they had with 20,000 people. So maybe they heard that he hates the course and really laid into him. But yeah, so if Hatton shows his emotions on his sleeve, he's going to hear about it. I mean, you've had Justin Leonard throw up the finger in like 2006. You had Ian Poulter putt with one hand, because he's so upset. Like, this is an emotional course. It's really fun to watch on TV because you get entertained by the guests and then also the golfers, just how they react. Even John Rahm he's an Arizona State grad, him and Phil, but he put on like an Arizona State jersey a couple years back and drove the par 16. The crowd went nuts. It's one of the only real cool shows, so I think it's pretty fun to watch. What do you think? Do you like watching the race event?
Yeah, that's what 12 hours of Budweiser does to you. Yes. Even something that's poor looks good when you've got that much alcohol in your system. But they have fun, and the group that runs this tournament, they're such philanthropists that you got to appreciate what they're doing, and the fact that they get this many people out to a tournament and these people have fun, they come back. Part of the charity system for the PGA, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. That's what's awesome about these tournaments. The PGA Tour is awesome with charity and stuff. Golf is a really cool sport, but yeah, getting this fun little atmosphere doesn't happen often, so it's fun to watch. So under that 7,500 range, are there any kind of lower deep dive? There's a lot of golfers, in that low 7K and 6K range now. They kind of restructured DraftKings pricing, and put a lot of, I would say, at least 20 more golfers in like the 6K range than there has been the past few years in PGA-DFS. I don't know why, but I like it because if you want to pay up, it allows you to.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, sometimes you need those guys because otherwise you can't get more than one or two of the top tier guys. But if you want to get down below 7,500 and stay above 6,900, so basically from the $7,000 to the $7,500 range, there's several guys in there that I like. My favorite is probably Lucas Glover. He's $7,200. And Lucas Glover's current form is outstanding. I don't know about the course history here, but he's a pretty solid, non-emotional, one shot at a time golfer. And, if he can stay focused, I think he'll play well here. The other ones that I like in that group are, again, he's always been a favorite of mine. He's had some ups and downs. He's also from the European Tour. Is Martin Keimer. Martin Keimer is $7,300. His last two tournaments on the European Tour, he's been tied for 24th and tied for 22nd. So playing well. It's just, can he bring it from there to here and not have the jet lag or lose it? But I've always liked Martin Keimer's game.
Okay. What do you think about the course horse in that range, Brendan Steele? He just, he's gained shots year after year at this course. He has nothing less than, let's see, where's he at, Mr. Steele? He's got a T3, T16, T17, T26, T6. Like, that's crazy for a 7,400 golfer. He's not the same, though, I feel like. He's just not – he's having issues right now. Are you going to be going to Steele or just kind of staying away this week?
I may put him in 1-2 lineups. Again, like I think we talked last week, you and I both like that $1 winner take all, and that's where I set a lot of lineups. not necessarily use all of them in the different tournaments. And that may be one where I, put a lineup in there that I take a big risk on and get 3 or 4 of the higher price guys and then take 2 low end guys. If that's the case, Brendan Steele could definitely be in play for one of those.
Yeah, I agree. I'll throw him into a couple of those as well. He's worth it because if he goes at if he T3s or even top 25s at his price, you're happy with that.
You got value.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Let's move on. I like Sam Burns. I mentioned him earlier. I'm not huge on golfers that haven't played this course before because I don't know how they're going to react. But I like Keith Mitchell at 7,000. I like Sam Burns at 7,100. I like Bo Hostler at 7,100. I think that's a really cheap price for a golfer like Bo Hostler. He's not proven or anything, but he's had some good tournaments here and there. I think he's pretty consistent. I think he shows out and does a really good job this week, especially on the greens. And then let's see, under that, Lucas Grubber's a good call. He's at like 5 top 20s, I think.
He's on fire.
Yeah, you don't think about Lucas Glover as being consistent, but when he is, I guess you ride it, man. I think that's a great call, but I'm assuming his ownership will be elevated because of that. And, it's such a cheap price tag. That doesn't mean don't play him. There's good chalk and bad chalk, guys. Don't just say, okay, if I say he's going to be high owned, don't just completely neglect him. Still have him in your player pool, but don't have him in 100% of your lineups.
And then also that depends on how much tout he gets this week too. If it's just you and me talking about him, it's not going to be that high.
I have run on a couple things, just so our listeners do know. 2 separate podcasts have kind of, talked about Glover a little bit, just based on his, his past 5 tournaments. So he is definitely getting some buzz this week. I think it's a good call regardless, though. People are on him for a reason, and I don't think it's a bad call. He's a great ball striker. That flat stick gets rolling. You could see him top 10 again.
Yeah, there's two guys in there that I'm probably not going to touch, and it's simply because both of them have missed 3 cuts in a row. That's Charles Schwartzel and Brian Harman. I like Brian Harman, but Brian Harman, I think he's got something wrong right now. He doesn't miss 3 cuts in a row unless something's wrong and he's swinging, he can't figure it out, or something else. I don't know. But those are 2 guys in that group that I probably absolutely won't touch.
Yeah, that's fair. Anything under that 7K range that you're looking at?
Yeah, actually, the first guy that at 6,900, Ryan Armour. He's been playing pretty solid.
Yeah, he's been striping it. Anything? Let's say, what about Joel Dahman?
That was my next guy.
Yeah, touch on Joel.
Yeah, Joel Dahman's just consistent right now. He's if he's not a rookie, this is his maybe 2nd year or 3rd.
Yeah, 3rd year on tour, I believe.
Okay, I was going to say, because I didn't think he was a rookie, but, those guys go up and down between the web.com tour and get exemptions every now and then. You never know if he's actually on the tour or just playing in an event he qualified for. But Joel Dahman is a solid player, and he played well, last week. I think his biggest thing is going to be figuring out how to finish out on the weekend.
Yeah, so I like Bud Cauley. I like Nick Watney. I do like Joel Dahman. I think that's a great call. Like, why is he 6,800 is my first question. I think that price is ridiculous for a golfer that has just been striping it. And even last year, he had like what felt like 10 top 20s. Maybe it wasn't that much, but seriously, you saw his name up there consistently. And for 6,800, a golfer that, last week, this is actually something I want to touch on. With Joel, he's always been really good at approach, like phenomenal, just stripes it. Last week, he gained 7 strokes on the greens, and he lost strokes on approach. So I don't know how to take that. Do we think that he's going to have a great putting week again, which is more unrealistic, or do you think he kind of comes back down to earth with putting and brings his approach back up? So I don't know. He did great last week, but still, his stats completely flipped from the Joel Dahman that I know.
And that could just be the Torrey Pines effect. What does it to Ricky Fowler? He just, Ricky's a solid player, but he just can't. He doesn't play well in Torrey Pines.
Sure, yeah, course fit. Sometimes course fit and then form are the 2 things that we're going to look for. We don't really have a ton of history on Dom, and he's actually never played the course. So it's kind of a shot in the dark, but it's a shot in the dark that I'm willing to take.
There's also two guys in that lower range that, and the only reason I want to point this out is because one of them has made 5 out of 7 cuts, including I think he was a T7 last week, or not last week, but in the Desert Classic, and that's Vaughn Taylor. Vaughn Taylor also, I think, has some decent history at this course, not outstanding, but it's decent. And the other one is a guy named John Catlin. John he's a U.S. golfer, but he plays a lot on the European Tour. I mean, everybody knows by now that's where Brooks Koepka, earned his stripes on the European Tour. And, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But Catlin has made 5 out of 6 cuts. So, those are guys, if you're going that low, you want guys that are making cuts.
Great. What do you think? So I mentioned Ali last week. You said he's in a cut funk. He shot a 71 and he shot a 72. He was 1 under, just missed the cut, didn't play great, didn't play like Ali can, but he had a T3 in 2018 and a T24 in 2017. The way he's playing right now, he's not the same golfer as he was in 2018 at the beginning of the year or late 2017. So any Ali this week, he was actually he kind of destroyed. I came in 25th on that winner take all, and I had 5 of 6 through and got 25th, and Ali was the reason. He was my 6th guy that just missed the cut for me.
This past week.
Yeah, this past week. Yep.
Yeah, Ali is the only person that's got a name that's more fun to say than his is Kiradep after Barnrat.
Yeah.
Ollie Schneidergans, I honestly will probably mostly avoid him, but I say that he's probably going to get sprinkled into one lineup simply because he plays well on this course. And we talked several weeks ago, what things can get a guy out of a funk? And one of the biggest things getting a guy out of a funk is going to a course that he's comfortable on and he's been successful on. So maybe this is Ollie's way out.
All right. I agree. We'll see. I hope this gets him out of his funk. I think he's a great golfer. When he's on, he just needs to, start striping those irons again and put the ball on the green. He just keeps missing it. If you're not on the green, you're not going to score well. Plain and simple. Brian Gay, I like right above him just for the putting aspect. He can pop on any given week. And he actually had a T9 last season here. So I think Brian Gay is a solid option. When I think of Brian Gay, I think of consistency. He's shown better approach throughout last season as well. Under him, Sam Ryder, never played the course, but the kid's good at scoring. He made the cut last week. He can string birdies together in bunches. I like Sam Ryder. And then if I'm going real low, like Anders Albertson at 6,300 is a dart. And then at 61, Ryan Blom, 7 of 8 cuts. He just sucks on the weekends, but he seems to make cuts.
Listen, you want to see how much we're in sync here? On my Ryan Blom, I wrote next to him, making cuts, not finishing well.
Yeah.
What you just said.
He's a pretty good golfer. I mean, he's not great, and you can't expect 4 rounds, but I mean, give me 3 rounds, Ryan. Come on, man.
Exactly. Three solid rounds is going to give you decent points to place.
You know what, though, Mark? I would rather him have 2 good rounds and make the cut and then give us a little bit of points throughout the weekend instead of having 2 bad rounds and missing the cut completely. Wouldn't you agree with that?
100%.
All right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, anything else you want to touch on at 6K?
No, just one name I want to mention if you want to have some fun, and I've read a little bit about this guy. I don't know a whole lot about him, but he's the last one on the list, Matthew Wolff.
Yep, he's
$1,000. Just a good college player. This is his first tournament. He's probably in on an exemption. I'm not 100% sure. But, if you want to have some fun, the guy can play. It's just, again, you can play, but when you come out here with all these guys that are this good, how well does that hold up?
Yeah, he's really talented. I actually watched a video, kind of his little highlight reel for golf, which is just a funny thing to think of, a highlight reel for golf. He's got a really funky swing. It kind of reminds me of Jim Furyk's swing. But he's extremely talented, Oklahoma State grad, and just mashed his postseason. I think he won like 3 straight tournaments or something crazy. So he's really talented. He knows how to win. I mean, I'm at 6K. He's worth a dart. Maybe I'll throw him into one single $1 lineup, in that winner take all, or maybe I'll like 50-cent or 25-cent lineup just for fun. But I've heard his name so often. I think he might be like 5 to 8%, and I'm not willing to take a new golfer at 5 to 8%.
Hey, that's possible. You're 100% right on that. It just depends on how much hype he gets. But again, it's a dart. If he makes the cut at $6,000, you jumped ahead of probably 50% of the field or more.
Yeah, I mean, you can have fun too. Put a young lineup in. Put Joaquin Neiman and Taylor Gooch and this kid, and then go for like 3 of the top end guys because you have a bunch of salary league. Try that. Like, that's a fun lineup. If that does well, I mean, that's just a fun 4-day sweat if all 6 make the cut.
Yeah, and then when somebody else comes out next week and says, "Who would have thought to put those 6 guys in a lineup?" Right here, I did.
Yep, you heard it here, Scout Fantasy. All right, Mark. Anything else before we get out of here? Let's make some lineups. Let's do that.
Couple lineups. Yep.
Okay, so let's start with DK Cash. Last week we had 4. I'm going to start tracking it to kind of see where our lineups go. Okay. We only had, 4 of 6 in both of our lineups, our cash and our GPP. We just had Holmes miss the cut in our cash, as well as it was Noren. Noren was our other cash lineup. Yep, so it was Holmes and Noren. So we both had a pick that didn't end up making the cut for us. The lineup didn't do too bad. The golfers that we did pick. But we just need to get them all through. And then our GPP misses were Cameron Champ, and we nailed Hideki, which was awesome. We nailed Woodland, which was great. But the other 2, I can't remember who we ended up missing the cut. But yeah, 4 of 6. So let's try to get 6 of 6 through for at least our cash for our listeners. And we'd love to get 6 of 6 through for our GPP. Let's give it a shot. Mark, start us off in cash. Let's do it.
All right, my first guy in cash, I think this week, I am going to go with Mr. Dependable Webb Simpson.
Webb Simpson at 9,700. All right, so I'm going to drop down and hit Daniel Berger at 82. I just think this is an awesome course fit for Daniel. Like I said, open course, good course history. Had a bogey-free round his last time out on the North Course, so I think he's going to bring a good stick this week. Daniel Berger.
Okay, I'll go even lower. I'll do Party Marty, Martin Laird.
Martin Laird. Let's see. What's he at? 78? Is he at 7,800? Do you know, Mark, off the top of your head?
He is at 7,600.
76. All right. So let's see. I'm going to go to, in this middle range, below 8Ks. I actually like JT Poston, who I didn't mention. And the reason being, he's had 1 round over par in his last 12 rounds. He had another good week last week. He ended up top 40. It wasn't great, but he ended up scoring well. He had those 3 streak birdies. He hit 2 of those. So he had 2 separate rounds where he had 3 birdies strung together. He ended up scoring pretty well. And I think, if you're just going to consistently shoot under par, even if you haven't played this course, I want you in my cash lineup. That's what you want. Even if it's only 2 under, 2 under, 2 under, 2 under, that's 8 under at the end of the tournament. You're not upset with that.
Well, you've been on post in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of weeks. So I'm there. Like I said, I'm writing everything down you say.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Give me 1 second. Let me plug this in. While I'm doing this, let's see. What do we got? Mr. Rose. Okay, go ahead. Go with your next golfer.
What do we have left?
82 gives us Berger. And then we got, should have been plugging this in from the start. I was just writing it down. My fault, listeners. Give me 1 moment. All right, so that leaves us with Mr. Laird. Perfect. All right. We've got $8,600 combined. Not combined. Total. That's our average. 8,600.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Lucas Glover, and I'm going to give you a chance to go higher.
Beautiful. All right, so Lucas Glover, and that will give me $10,000, which puts me in the Woodland, Finau, Fowler, Mickelson. You know what? I have to go back to Woodland.
That's what I was going to say.
He did awesome for me last week. He did awesome.
He's done awesome every week, but one.
Yeah, and I mean, the dude's, he's going to get an eagle. I mean, he could miss the cut and still end up with, you know, he could end up being the highest scoring miscut golfer if he ends up missing the cut, because he'll end up with 2 eagles and 7 bogeys and just miss by a stroke. And he'd be like, shit. All right, so we have
defending champs usually make the cut.
Yeah, yeah. So we got Daniel Berger, 8,200, Lucas Glover at 72, Martin Laird at 76. Let's see, Woodland at 99, Webb Simpson at 97, and JT Poston at 7,300. That leaves us with $100 left, and we use 49.9. So that's our cash lineup, everybody. Let's move on to GPP. I will start with this one, and I'm going to start all the way at the top at Mr. John Rahm.
Yeah, he'll be highly owned, but I think that's not too bad. From, you know, we can differentiate somewhere else.
Do you really think he'll be high owned though? Because last week he was the highest price golfer and came in at 9%. I know this is not as strong of a field. I understand that.
Right.
But I feel like that 9K range is so stacked. I feel like people are going to put 3 9K players and kind of forget about that 10 and up range. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right, only except for the players that are coming in that don't follow it as closely as most of us do and don't listen to podcasts. They're going to go for the names they've seen, the names they know. And, you know, right now, off of recency bias, you're looking at Rahm and Matsuyama. So, you know, they're probably, I don't want to sit here and say they're going to be the highest owned, but they're going to have a decent amount of ownership.
Yeah. I mean, I think Matsuyama will be the highest owned, but he should be. I mean, you can't beat that course history. I don't think I've seen a course history that good ever.
He was even playing well when he withdrew last year, so it's hard to say what he would have finished.
Yep, I agree. So let's keep moving. We got Mr. Rahm starting off our GPP lineup.
Alrighty, so that leaves me. We'll see. We'll start. Well, we'll not differentiate yet. We'll still stay pretty consistent here. I think I'm going to go basically on recency bias and comeback. Cameron Champ.
Cam Champ, I love it. All right, I'm going to go Keith Mitchell. We'll just stick with the Bombers, it looks like.
That's a good one, too. Okay, my next one, if we're going to go with some Bombers. No, he's not really a Bomber, but I really want to say I'm going to say Cameron Smith. I was going to say Xander Schauffele, but I'm going Cameron Smith.
I think Smith will be half the ownership of Xander, so I think that's a good call. All right, that leaves us with 7,000 left. Let's see. I will go to. I'm going to say Sam Burns. I really like him this week. He's a good golfer. I'm going to go Sam Burns.
What is Sam? How much was he?
He was 7,100, so that leaves us with 7K on the head. You can try to leave some on there if you want.
7K, huh?
7K.
Oh, I think I'll leave a little on the table. And I'm going to go with Joel Damon. I guess that's how they pronounced it last week on the coverage, was Damon. But I'll go with Joel.
All right. So that leaves us with highest price golfer, John Rahm at 11.5, down to Cam Smith at 9,100, Cameron Champ at 8,300. Then we move on to Sam Burns at 71, Keith Mitchell at 7,000, and Joel Dahman to round us off at 6,800. That leaves us with $200 left on our DK pricing. So that is it this week. Mark, you have anything you want to leave our listeners to?
Nope, same thing I leave you with every week. Join Slack chat if you want. We can have conversations on there up until the time that they lock. You know, it's like we said last week. We have so much to cover in 2 days that Al and I don't set our lineups mostly until Wednesday. And, we can change our mind. And we may not have mentioned somebody that you're interested in, and you may be able to convince us that that's a good play. So, do things to make sure that you stay up to date. And the other thing I want to emphasize, too, is read our articles together. It's 2 different looks at the same thing. We approach it from 2 different angles. And fortunately, it's worked out. I mean, it's worked out for Al. I've had some hits and misses, but again, like I said, we got to Adam Scott last week. I got to Adam Scott for everybody by saying plain because I hate him. Al got to Adam Scott because he liked him. So, you know, there's two different approaches and get to the same place. So if you read them in conjunction with each other, I think it'll benefit you more.
Well said, Mark. Everybody, once again, you can find me on Twitter at Coach White DFS. That's the best way. Direct message me if you have any questions. Seriously, I'm an open book. I want to be fully transparent with our listeners. So, you know, if you have any questions at all, feel free. You know, I can't put every single golfer on my list in an article. That's not how I do things. If you have a question on a certain golfer, reach out. Other than that, guys, take a chance again. You know, it's worth it. Don't be afraid to leave money on the table. Again, I looked at the optimal lineups, and all of them were within, like, they were all in $48,000 range. I'm sorry, $48,000 range, and none of them use that $50,000 salary. So please leave some salary on the table. Take some chances, guys. Again, Coach White DFS on Twitter. That's pretty much it. Take it easy. Let's see some green screens next week. Mark, it's been fun. Take it easy, guys.
Good luck, everybody.